Alright, you just joined us. We got some cookies here from Asus. Let's go ahead and open this box up. Where's your cookies? Didn't they send you some cookies, Wendell?
Yes, I got some cookies. Some? They're all gone now.
You already ate all the cookies? They came in yesterday. There was like 6 of them in here. I guess they're running the office.
Well, it turns out I've got a whole office full of nerds, so
Let's see what we got here. We've got a tablet filled with food coloring. You know, all the ingredients are great until the food coloring comes in. I had one of these yesterday, and I woke up with a migraine this morning, and I'm wondering if the migraine is from the sugar or the food coloring, or possibly both.
All right, there was one of those that was like a tablet, and it was like, oh, it actually had a screen printed on it. I was like, yeah, right there, that's pretty cool. I'm not going to eat that.
Let someone else eat this one. I'm going to leave this around and see if maybe Albert, I'll leave it laying on the table and just see if Albert eats it, you know? That'd be funny. I'm going to eat the...
Doing experiments on Albert.
I'm going to eat this one here that looks like an ROG motherboard right there. There we go. ROG motherboard. All right, let's go ahead and open this one up here. I don't even know how these things open. I'll probably cut through some of this stuff. These things are way too sweet, by the way. They are like...
They're pure sugar.
They are like the Deep South sweet. Yep. It's really, really sweet. So, how would you feel... So how would you feel if Jonathan Frakes were to direct the next Star Trek movie?
Well, hopefully it wouldn't be as much of a train wreck as what J.J. Abrams has thrust upon the world.
It could not be any worse than Ori. Ori is like one of the worst directors in the history of mankind. The guy that just stepped down, is that his name? Something Ori? Maybe not. Robert Orci. Orci, that's his name. Probably the worst person they could have ever chosen. And in interviews, he was like, yeah, I don't even know what Star Trek is. I don't know why I have this job. Like that's the kind of stuff that was coming out of his mouth. Like, I'm not really a fan of it. It's stupid. I'm paraphrasing here, but... And then if you look at his track record, oh, he would have been the worst. Like, the worst person ever to direct this. So, maybe Frakes is like kind of freaking out. Maybe he's so excited that he might be scaring away the actual publishers and the company, you know, like Paramount and all that. I don't know. Could be interesting.
He is really excited. But he should be excited. I thought he did, the stuff that he's directed, he actually did a really good job on. There are a couple of my favorite episodes of Deep Space Nine. I think it was Deep Space Nine. He directed, so that's really good.
Mm-hmm. Insurrection, right? That's the one that people kind of yell about. And then First Contact, that was one. That was a really good one. Anyway.
I think Insurrection is an incredible premise for a movie, but, wait. No, that's not right.
No.
Is there?
No.
I can't remember. I didn't know how to have my Star Trek lore pre-buffered, so it'll be about 5 minutes, and then I can talk to you about it.
We'll come back. All right, so I'm going to move on. I'm just like basically having dinner here. I'm going to put this damn cookie down. This is way too sweet. I'm going to get extremely hyper, but I probably need it. The Pirate Bay. The cops kicked the doors down, took a bunch of servers, took a bunch of computers, and the Pirate Bay is offline. They've been raided by Swedish police, and the question now is, what's next? We know that this has happened. I mean, most of the guys from the Pirate Bay have been captured. Some of them have been to prison. I guess pretty much all the main guys have been captured or gone to prison or something like that. Now, there are some developments. Peter Sund, he's one of the original creators of the Pirate Bay. He's already served his prison term and is out because that's the way things work in Sweden for a crime like copyright infringement or whatever they got him for. I forget what they got him for. You don't serve a gazillion years. You serve, a little bit of time, and then they let you back into society. So he served his term. And he says that he hopes that the Pirate Bay stays dead for a multitude of reasons. First off, he says that, the code is really old. This is like a decade-old website. It hasn't been updated, and the only thing that has been updated are the advertisements. He said they just keep getting worse and worse, and now all the ads are basically porn and BS. And, he said it's sad to see it that way, but he's hoping that, something will come out to replace this and will not have porn and Viagra ads all over the place. So that's his take on the thing. Kind of an interesting stance. I mean, I'm sure he made a lot of money off of all those advertisements at one point in time. I'm not sure how much control he had there at the end, but that would be a bit of a research project. And I mean, really, the thing that we need to talk about now is what is going to fill this void, because the Pirate Bay, millions and millions of people visited the site every month for whatever illicit reasons. Or whatever, maybe they were sharing stuff that was totally legitimate, but they were using the Pirate Bay as their means of sharing it. It's kind of weird, but What is going to fill the void? The Pirate Bay did what they wanted to do. They wanted to get BitTorrent out in the open and, sort of make it a ubiquitous technology. And that's another thing that Peter Sutton said they wanted to do. So other people are saying, you can't keep us down. We're going to be back and all that. Some of the different quotes from people involved are saying, you'll never stop us. So I don't know. I'm kind of curious to know what the audience thinks out there. Do you guys hope that it comes back? Do you hope that it stays gone? I really don't care. I haven't done anything on the Pirate Bay. I don't even know if I've ever used the Pirate Bay for anything. Except for I think I downloaded my own Zweihander once because I saw it on there and I was like, let's download it just for the hell of knowing that I pirated my own stuff. How about that? I don't know. What do you think is going to come after this? Do you think people are just going to move to the other things like, I don't know, kick-ass torrents or something?
Anybody that thinks taking the Pirate Bay offline is going to stop online piracy is really pretty naive. So I'd say that this will probably be back in relatively short order. The site is tiny. It really doesn't take much to host it. It's just a matter of finding a data center somewhere or obfuscating it sufficiently. I think there's a Costa Rican mirror of it that's still up, and still all the stuff is still working off of the Costa Rican mirror. Some other people misreported that it had moved to Costa Rica, but I don't think that's the case. So yeah, I hadn't been to the Pirate Bay in forever either because those ads had gotten, not because of the ads, but sites like that have ads that are very likely looking for security vulnerabilities in your machine, trying to infect it. And so it's like, I'll just steer clear of that.
Yeah, public trackers are kind of not the way to go anyway. I mean, anybody who uses one, especially the morons who use one without a VPN, are just, asking for trouble. Even if you're not doing anything bad, you're asking for trouble. Well, you're asking for malware. You're asking for some idiot law firm to get your IP address when they do just when they send it out to your ISP and say, hey, can you give us everyone that accessed this website in this day? Here's a subpoena, and your ISP's like, yeah, here you go. Here's all the IP addresses, and then they sue you for downloading something that you didn't download, one of those scams. You're asking for it. So, not that it makes you wrong or right. Just protect yourself on the internet. All right, are you ready to go over to London and talk about the GCHQ?
Let's talk about GCHQ.
So, just as Julian Assange predicted, how about that, says Tech Dirt. GCHQ, now this kind of happened in the USA, where, after Snowden and everything, the USA kind of freaked out, and they were like, damn, you know why this happened? Because people had access to too much information. So they started revoking tens of thousands of security clearance cards from, people in different positions. Now in the GCHQ, they're kind of doing the same thing. And they're kind of scrutinizing their employees. So, yeah, very interesting what's going on over there. I don't know.
GCHQ is sponsoring ways of identifying disgruntled employees and those who might go on to be a security threat through the use of language and things like office emails. Well, that's not horrifying at all. It's like, we need people that are working for us that, that toe the line, that don't think for themselves and blah, blah, blah. Pretty soon, I don't know if this is really going to happen. Well, okay, actually this did happen, but something non-technical, and we're not going to talk about that. But, it's like you just toe the line. That was not a valid defense, in the war crimes court. I don't think that it's really a particularly healthy thing to have an organization made up entirely of people that only think a certain way. It seems like history has taught us that that's probably a bad thing. I mean, on our forums, we really value dissenting opinions. I mean, people really get into it, but as long as it's civil, it's fine. Yeah,
guys, I love when you guys go onto the forums and you're like, dude, you're totally wrong, and here's the science why. If you guys show up and you're like, you are wrong because you are wrong, and I will punch you in the face if you ever say that again, that's not cool. So bring your science on, and let's have a good discussion, and that's what really makes the world a better place. Helps us sand out our rough edges, and I don't know, I'm going to get into a whole nonsense if I keep going. You know what? Let's go ahead and take a word from ourselves, our sponsors. Everyone needs to get one of these. These are so heavy duty right here. Our new bottle openers. I mean, these things are ridiculously heavy duty. You can use them to open cans as well. Just like, there you go. Laser etched. And these things are not made to be pretty. They're made to be tough and ugly, and they're going to get discolored and scratched and beat up. And that's what they're for. If you guys want something pretty, you can go elsewhere. All right, back to our regularly scheduled thing. Where was I?
Thing, it's just that Microsoft, this is like 2 seconds. Microsoft there's a court case right now where the U.S. Department of Justice wants information about a Microsoft customer, but that customer resides abroad and the data is abroad. And so the Department of Justice is like, no, we own that. And so there's a development in the court case that Microsoft has filed a response to that because the Department of Justice has sort of sued Microsoft and said, no, you got to turn it over. And so
Microsoft lost the appeal as well.
Yes. So this is not good.
The interesting thing I think about this here, let me chew this stupid. Why am I still eating the thing? Because it's there. God, that's sweet. The interesting takeaway for me was that, of course, Microsoft is in contempt of court right now, and they're going to get in trouble. And I don't know what's going to happen, other than people kicking down Microsoft's doors. But Microsoft said, how can they're talking about the U.S. Justice Department? They're saying, how can it complain if foreign agents require tech companies to download emails stored in the U.S.? And the Department of Justice hasn't said a word about that. But think about it. If, an entity in Finland or Germany, their equivalent of the NSA or their equivalent of the FBI or their equivalent of the DOJ said, hey, there's some data on a server that's located in, Tennessee, and we're going to get it because area doesn't matter. What matters is whatever we say matters. And they make up something, and they take the data off of the U.S. server. The U.S. would go freaking berserk. And that is, I think, one of the, I guess one of the glaring takeaways from this is that little statement there from Microsoft. Let's face it, Microsoft would have complied if it was in their, in their interest. But Microsoft is a global country, and
company.
When I say global country, well, I have been drinking. They are a global. They're pretty much, they're pretty much a country at this point. They're sovereign. Now, Microsoft, they're a global company, and they're doing what's best for their bottom line, basically. Because something like this, if this were to happen, I mean, what IT person is going to want to use Microsoft's cloud server? They're gonna be like, I don't want to use that cloud server because the U.S. will just steal everything, and we can't trust that. So it's a huge security vulnerability internationally, and Microsoft is not going to benefit monetarily from this court case if it continues to go this way. And so that's why they're in contempt of court. They would totally comply and give away all the information if they could.
The other side of the coin here is that because these companies do business internationally, the European Union has much better laws for protecting consumers and consumer data and a private individual's data than the U.S. has. And so that Microsoft, would run roughshod over this. They're going to be in some serious trouble in the European Union for this kind of information leaking or this kind of information subpoena or whatever. I mean, the Microsoft's counsel said, what if a foreign police force demanded that a branch bank opened a safety deposit box in New York City? The U.S. government would be outraged. But the judge didn't really go for that argument. He said it's not a question of where it is physically, it's a question of control. And it's like, okay, well, the bank manager has control of the safety deposit box. I mean, that doesn't really change the analogy at all. So why can't we think when it's electronic? It doesn't matter that it's electronic. It's overseas. Everything is proximal overseas, and so just why would Microsoft? That doesn't make any sense.
And you know what else doesn't make any sense? We've talked about Title II quite a bit on this episode, and that's where ISPs have to reclassify or are reclassified as utilities, so that their lines and all that stuff are just utilities, and they can't do all kinds of terrible, evil things. Well, a large number of companies, all the companies right here on this list, everyone from IBM, Panasonic, Intel, just an absurd number of interesting companies, D-Link, have all written a letter to the FCC and the United States Congress that says, please don't reclassify as Title II. They're saying that it will be really, really bad for business, essentially. Here's a quote. If you don't know that you can recover on investment, you won't make it. So, what's the agenda here, Wendell? What's going on? Like, everyone hates Title II right now.
It's about control. Okay, so Title II really is onerous. Like, if these communications companies had to comply with everything under Title II, it would be a serious burden for them. But they have shown that they cannot behave reasonably under Title I. and there's not enough inertia and momentum to get some new laws passed. And so the best solution here is Title II. Not that because Title II will immediately make all these ISPs have to comply with all the requirements of Title II. It turns out the FCC has power to say which parts of Title II can be enforced and which ones can't. So if the FCC reclassified these communications companies tomorrow under Title II, but said, look, here's our 5-year plan. We're not going to make you comply with everything under Title II. The only thing that we want you to do under Title II is to keep the internet as it has been since the beginning of the internet. No fast lanes, none of that. Nothing else is changing. The FCC can make that rule. And so even though those communication companies would be reclassified under Title II, the FCC can set policy as to what extent that is enforced under Title II. What's happened, it's really easy. It's really not any more complicated than people are making it out to understand. What has happened under Title I is that Title I is a pretty loose, open requirement for these companies in terms of what they have to comply with under the law. And the FCC has sued both Comcast and Verizon for shenanigans that they have done under Title I. And the law does not work such that the FCC can set arbitrary rules, and so the FCC lost their court cases against Verizon and Comcast. Well, under Title II, the same thing applies. The FCC can't make new onerous rules, but they can say to the communications companies, you have to behave or we're going to enforce Provision 6 of, Title II, or Provision 8 or Provision Q or whatever, and that provision will be really onerous. And so in that way, the FCC has a way to motivate these communications companies. But I got news for you. If the playing field were level, there would be an incredible revolution in American small business to roll out internet services to these customers. These customers that are like, oh, we don't know if we can invest in the infrastructure. We don't know if there are customers out there. Entrepreneurs and local cities and infrastructure, pretty much everybody across America would be like, oh, you mean we can, run our own lines and it'll be organized and it's going to be great? They would totally do that because it's already happening. A lot of small town America is not waiting on these communications companies. America, over the last 30 years, America went from, top 10 in the world, if not top in the world, to what, 50th, 40th, 50th in the world now? Our internet sucks. These guys have not invested in the infrastructure, and they're whining like, oh, it's gonna be more. We're gonna charge you more under Title II. Well, it's like, but if you look at your communications bills over the last 30 years, they've gone up 5 times faster than inflation. So they're already screwing us.
This advertisement here on the Hill.com, it is so hilarious. It's from that stupid NCTA organization that's comprised of a lot of the big companies out there that we all know and hate. But yeah, look at this. It makes it, the idiots are going to fall for this. They're going to look at this advertisement and be like, oh yeah, Title II sounds great. What do you mean that my bill is going to go up? Oh my God, investments aren't going to happen. I'm going to end up paying more money. And then they have this ginormous misinformation campaign here. So make sure that everyone steers clear of this. You guys are the evangelists out there. You can go, oh, this is such a nice, wow, this website is so nice. It's put together. Like, the misinformation is so organized. Oh my God. It is a beautiful pile of shit. It's so beautiful. Wow.
Somebody paid for this ad. What's their agenda? Why do they fear this? Well, they fear this because Title II, the FCC would have some real power to enforce some of the things they've sued about. It's Tom Wheeler too. So I mean, how much as a communications company, how much can you really fear that? I mean, really.
From now on, he's Tom Wheeler and Dealer. All right, that's just his name. That's it. So Tom Wheeler and Dealer is in on this somehow, right? I mean,
you recognize him as the Dingo.
Tom Wheeler, otherwise known as the Dingo. So I mean, here's cable rates going up since 1984, and this is without Title II. They've already been going up at a rate way, way greater than inflation. Here's another freaking piece of stat stuff from 2007. You know what? Actually, I'll let you get into this one here. The 2007 telecommunications symposium. That article.
Fun fact, the little blip on the graph there, when it starts going up faster, that's the 96 Telecommunications Act that allowed these companies to consolidate. And they were like, consolidate, it's going to drive the bill down. And then the bill went way up faster.
And then they're like, hey, that's neat.
Now, guys.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
So right in there, they're like,
if they're going to complain about all these infrastructure investments and all this other kind of stuff, they still, to this day, get subsidies for this kind of thing. If you have an ISP in a rural area, and it's like, why do I have to take the phone line? You know, it's like the ISP will only give you a good deal if you get the phone line. In a rural area, they get the subsidy. And so, especially with smaller ISPs, you see that. And it's like, well, I don't understand why that is. It's like, well, the federal government doesn't give you subsidy options on the pure broadband side of things. They do it on the telephone side of things, which is why a lot of providers got into that game. And so the reality of the situation here with these larger companies is that their infrastructure upgrades have already been subsidized. The 96 Telecommunications Act has, in fact, already paid for fiber optic service for everyone in the country. They have not delivered on that, and we, the American people, should take these companies to task for it. And to say something so outrageous as, well, we just don't want to, we don't want to invest because we don't know what the return is going to be. The government has already said, you don't have to make that risk. We're going to subsidize your investment here. They have not invested what they have been given to invest. That, to me, not only is antitrust, but, Ma Bell was broken up for not as bad as that. And so clearly the people who are asleep at the helm don't understand there's a lot of subterfuge, and it's really outrageous.
All right. That's enough sadness for now. Should we go and talk about hardware? Shall we?
Yes, let's move on to hardware.
HP has this new revolutionary operating system and computer that they say is going to be available in 2015. And I'll just cut right to the chase here. The idea is that with current computers, whenever you need to do something, you've got a hard drive that stores all your files, and maybe it's a mechanical hard drive, maybe it's an SSD or whatever. But when you've got stuff and you're looking at it, whatever you're looking at is generally in RAM. It's like loaded into your system RAM because that's much faster and snappier. So what HP is going to be doing is they're going to move away from the traditional copper interconnects, and they're going to start using optical interconnects, and then on top of that, they're going to be using one single type of memory for everything in the entire system. So things aren't going to have to be moved around as much. It should be a lot faster than having to deal with the RAM and hard drives and all that. And then on top of that, they're saying it's going to be, like, if this is for server technology mainly, they're saying it's going to use 1.25% of the energy and be about 10% of the size of a traditional server, while being at the same time 6 times more powerful than the conventional stuff. If they can pull this off, they'll change the world. And there's a big word there, if. HP hasn't done much in a while. I mean, they've been around since, whenever, and they've got a lot of interesting inventions under their belt. So if they can get this to be a thing, could be pretty interesting. I'm not sure how compatible. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's just the skeptic in me is, the magic bullet here, the magic technology here is memristor. And what is that? It's like, well, it's a type of memory that retains its contents even when it's off, but it's supposedly cheap and easy to manufacture. That's what HP's working on. It should be cheap and easy to work out, but it's a new technology. We've got to work the bugs out. All right, that's fine. That's reasonable. But they're already behind on their timetable a couple of times, and that goes all the way back to 2010. So it's not as if this is like super new technology. And I think we've actually covered this story a few years ago when this thing was like first getting off the ground. And so, yes, I mean, it is cool that you can make the computer more efficient because you don't have to move things around and blah, blah. But if they have this memristor technology, they could apply that to modern computation as well. And that would fund, a memristor drive or a memristor PCI Express accelerator. These kinds of things already exist for huge database servers. You buy a PCI Express add-in card and it makes your spinning rust go insanely way faster. It's like the easy button solution for data center admins. So HP could do something like that, as proprietary as their technology wants to be, on a PCI Express interface card. That would be low-hanging fruit for them to do without inventing a whole new architecture. And that would make sense if they own, the memristor technology and things like that. But that we have not seen such a peripheral, and such technology is sort of the cornerstone of this architecture. That makes me a little bit more skeptical than I would be otherwise.
All right, let's move on and check out what's going on with the Adblock Plus platform. Microsoft, Google, and several others are really worried about the about Adblock, and they're threatening to sue the Adblock Plus creator. How about that? So, and I guess
Oh no.
there's a really let's go on to this next article here, talking about fraud from bots, because that may be the problem here, is that the fraud from bots has caused a $6 billion loss in digital advertising. This is something that Kane is into, his company that he works for. They do digital forensics, and it's pretty interesting stuff, because a lot of the ads, especially video ads, that people buy, they buy them in bulk. Some big companies, they buy all these ads, and these ads are delivered all over the web. Well, a lot of the ads are viewed by robots that do a really good job of looking like humans. And then there's also the obvious cases, like I was talking to Kane a few weeks ago, and apparently some guy in like Russia or something, he had a website, and he just kept reloading the website all day long. And the website had a 1 pixel by 1 pixel, little thing on the website, and that 1 pixel by 1 pixel thing was playing like 30 video ads, all muted at the same time, but it was still there on the page. And then he was trying to load that onto as many sites as he could through malware and that sort of thing. And they started watching this from about the beginning, and then after a little while, they finally pinned it down, figured out what he was doing, made a case out of it, and sent the cops to his house. But he had made at that point like $2-point-something million equivalent US dollars. So they look for stuff like that. And his company, they track these things, and they determine what's a human, what's not a human, and then they save the companies a lot of money. So apparently a lot of people are not using services like the one that Kane works for, and they're getting, basically just completely destroyed by the bots or whatever. I mean, do you think that has anything to do with the whole Adbot thing?
Yeah.
The whole Adblock thing? Yeah.
Well, my read of the whole situation was that that Kane's firm basically uncovered this, broke the story, and this is the follow-up for that. This, these advertising industry folks have sort of paid a digital security firm to do the homework and make sure and see. It's like, well, is there something wrong with this population, or is this thing as a whole? That's about 25%, give or take. And we had the story about this sort of bot activity on Facebook as well. People would sell ads, or people would do
sell
ads
likes
on Facebook, and so, well, I didn't really get any good traffic on the ads that I ran, because the bots are trying to disguise their traffic to make it harder to pick out. And I don't know mechanically if that matters with this, but the Adblock Plus technology and the fraud bot technology kind of go hand in hand. The Adblock Plus technology, I thought, was done really well. It was basically like Google tolerated it. They didn't like it. They tolerated it. And, the Adblock Plus people also let certain kinds of ads, like unobtrusive ads, you can have those, so you're not hurting subscribers and things like that. But with Do Not Track and these sort of the bots running around, the advertisers are getting really antsy, and they're probably leaning on Google and Microsoft. Now, I really think Google should take a different stance here. I don't think it's do no evil-ing to threaten the Adblock Plus guys. So I would like to know a whole lot more about the situation and what's happened, given that these bots are running rampant. So that the bots and Adblock Plus and the bots don't really have anything to do with one another. They're sort of different sides of a similar problem for advertisers. But I would like to know more about the situation, and I would like to know what the advertiser's agenda is, other than making sure that you see the ads, or making sure that you do whatever, because they're always going to do that. They're always going to run roughshod over your rights. So I don't know.
Everybody put on your fedoras. Fedora 21 is out. There you go. And the Fedora is pretty bleeding edge.
Oh God! Don't summon Berta Lovejoy. No, no.
I wonder if people on Reddit have anything against the Linux distro Fedora, or if it's just they hate fedoras. It seems to be kind of a hive-minded thing. Anyone that wears a fedora is a douchebag. So I wonder if they think the same about the Linux distro, because I wonder if they're all on like, we use the Ubuntu and Debian. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, the main thing about Linux, and you guys will see some videos specifically about this, the main thing about Linux is use any distro that you like, use any environment that you like, just get some shit done. How about that? So Fedora 21 is pretty interesting because it's the newest thing that just came out, and so we're going to talk about it. We're also going to try to cover a little bit more when it comes to Linux anyway. Here's what they've got going on. They've separated it into 3 different installations: workstation, server, and cloud. And they do specific tasks that benefit each one of these things. I'm going to focus on Workstation because that's what a lot of us will be using. It's packaged with GNOME 3, lots of very modern features. GNOME 3 is so much nicer than Unity. Like, it's just way nicer than Unity. I still kind of favor Cinnamon, but yeah, here's the project that I kind of like. It's the Aurora project, and it uses, you can get it with Cinnamon if you like, but let's see over here if you go to the download, it's not updated. It's not as updated. Like, you can get it with XFCE or KDE or Cinnamon or GNOME or whatever, but yeah, I really like Cinnamon because I'm a peasant Windows user, and Cinnamon just feels like more like Windows. I guess I could get used to GNOME. I don't know. What are you running?
You filthy casual.
I use Cinnamon because I'm a filthy casual. Oh, God. But yeah, it's nice to have Cinnamon under the Fedora instead of, normally you'd use Linux Mint, and that's you can get it with Cinnamon, and that's a nice version of Debian. Anyway, I don't know where I'm going with this, but
I probably should link to it. There was a guy that had a really amazing presentation about what they plan to do with Fedora in like April. And it was like, wow, that's going to be really awesome if they can pull that off. Well, holy crap, they actually pulled it off. That guy, that video, I found that video again, and he had like 37 views, the poor guy. It's like a 45-minute talk, but it's really good. It's really good.
There's too many people on the Debian Ubuntu bandwagon, and Linux Mint is huge. And I don't disagree that those are really good distros, and you should use them, but, Fedora, don't look the other way when it comes to Fedora. But really, it's all about getting stuff done.
Fedora is like Red Hat beta. Stuff doesn't make it in from Red Hat to CentOS. The Fedora ecosystem is really weird. They've gone through a shakeup. There was a re-election, like they totally changed direction, and they, had like a political shakeup and some re-elections and stuff in November, I guess. And so they're trying to sort of, support the community a little bit better and sort of do what's interesting. Dell tried to do some stuff with Ubuntu, and it was sort of weird. But what they're doing with Fedora 21, they've got RollKit, which is a role deployment and management toolkit, and Cockpit, which is an interface for configuring and monitoring the services, and then OpenLMI, which is sort of a management interface, an API management interface. So instead of running using SSH keys and running scripts and doing all that kind of thing, this is an actual API for querying a large number of servers. And so it's got pretty reasonable Docker support, although it's shipped with kernel 3.17, and you really need 3.18 for the overlay file system. But there's like a lockup bug in the kernel that's been around for a little bit, and people are freaking out about that. But supposedly the 3.18 kernel is supposed to be available like by the time you're watching this, or maybe a day or two after. But Fedora actually looks pretty cool. Like I'm sort of a Debian guy, but I've always liked to play with Fedora because it's sort of a get business done, business distro, I guess.
Well, I may have gigabit internet very soon, and if I do, I'm going to have some dedicated servers. I'll probably run. What should I run, Wendell? Debian, or should I run CentOS? I don't know.
Well, I don't know. We could run Bleeding Edge on the thing with
Fedora,
like
for
Fedora
workstation.
As Red Hat beta it's like Bleeding Edge, and CentOS is like conservative version of Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and you can still run like some more bleeding-ish edge, from REMI or from EPEL, but Fedora server, for like if it's a small business server, Fedora server looks pretty cool, but it's beta. It's not really. You have to think of it as sort of the beta testing thing, but it shows where they're intending to go.
It's always bleeding edge.
Debian is like super stable but ultra conservative, and I found Fedora historically to be kind of bleeding edge, pretty bleeding edge, but also comparable, close to comparable stability that Debian has. So it's really neat. I like the direction the project is going in.
You know what? I'm going to install this probably over on this machine here. I think I might install an extra SSD in there, and I'll play around with Workstation. I'll probably end up putting Cinnamon on there. Sorry, guys. I GNOME 3 is cool though, but I'll probably end up using Cinnamon. And yeah, it'd be a good learning environment because I'm not extraordinarily experienced with Fedora. But here's an idea I'm just going to throw out there. What do you guys think about having a section of the website where every day you talk about what you've learned as far as hacking goes. Like what is the thing today that you learned? Because that's really what it's all about, is every day what you've done, not what platform you're on. Everybody gets so freaking ridiculous and pedantic about like, this platform is better and this environment's better. Nobody gives a shit. Just what are you doing with that? You can sit there and configure your desktop all day long, but what are you doing with it? So how do you guys feel about a separate little forum where we can just go in there and talk about what we learned each day as far as programming and hacking goes? I don't know. What do you think, Whittle? Pretty cool.
I think that would be great. My first post is going to be, I was playing with Docker's overlay file system and I accidentally proved that P is equal to NP. No, not really. That would be awesome, though.
Oh, man. Let's talk about dogs. Let's get into some science here. So some people at the University of North Carolina, actually, they're not people, they're researchers, everybody. So some researchers at the University of North Carolina have been trying to decode dog talk, and apparently they're getting pretty close to it. And they're looking for physiological and emotional changes in the dog. And then that sends some wireless commands and vibrations, and they use that information they get to decode it into human speak, kind of. And apparently, after giving the dogs IQ tests, they've determined that the dogs in North Carolina are more intelligent than the politicians in North Carolina. Who would have figured?
I could have probably called that.
Yeah, when you see what they do, I mean, when you just watch what happens in Wilson, North Carolina, when they get fiber, and the politicians are like, "Oh God, no! They must have Comcast." So yeah, dogs are indeed smarter. But yeah, you guys can go read the rest of this article. It's kind of cool. It would be kind of cool to talk to our dog. I'm pretty sure our dog would say, "Food? Can I jump on that guy? How about some food? Let me jump on you. I'm going to jump on you now. Let me get some food." That's pretty much what they would say. Better, still smarter than the politicians. Still smarter than the politicians. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Umbra. I have just met you, and I love you.
Or I may maul you if you're a child. She hates children. She thinks children are a different. She thinks they're a demonic species. So whenever she sees them, we're like, "Oh no, we're going to end up having to put the damn dog down one of these days because she's going to eat a child. She won't just bite the child; she will eat the child." That's how. Like, whenever she sees one,
it's going to be Exhibit A in some future lawsuit.
See, right there, he said that the dog was going to eat my child, and the dog ate my child. He knew it was going to happen. I did. And you know what? Your child probably... Never mind. What's this monitor thing? This monitor you've been using? Oh, yeah, it's a clickbaity article on Daily Dot. But you know what? Clickbait or no clickbait, they're kind of freaking right. If you guys have a swivel or a monitor arm or anything like that, and you have multiple monitors, obviously if you're playing video games, you want a nice widescreen monitor. In fact, Pistol just upgraded, or she actually didn't. It's not really an upgrade. It's more of a lateral grade. She lateral graded from a 1440p monitor to a 21:9 1080p monitor. That's 2560 by 1080, which is kind of a strange resolution. She has fewer pixels now, but she has a nice wider field of view, and she plays games 90% of the time that she's on her PC. Well, she's either gaming or, doing something that doesn't require, vertical resolution. So if you have one monitor that's like that, a wide monitor, also consider having a vertical monitor. She and I both have vertical monitors. Wendell has 4 vertical monitors per workstation. Do you not? Right there. That one does not, right?
This one's only got 2 verticals, but yeah.
4 in the other downstairs.
The other setup, yeah. So portrait monitors are the way to go. I mean, with 2560 by 1440, you can have 2 windows side by side, so that's really the best of both worlds because it is a landscape monitor, but you're still your windows are basically portrait because they're taller than they are wide when you get 2 side by side. So, yeah, I'd agree with that.
All right, enough of that clickbaity nonsense. Let's go over to the UK once more. British wind farm set a new power production record. Last Sunday, 43% of British homes were powered by wind. That is awesome, guys. That is freaking awesome. And the other, 57% were powered by children's tears or something. I don't know. But you guys are going to stop those pedophiles and shut down the internet, right? Good. I can be a cynical bastard. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, everybody. All right. Let's talk about some synthetic stuff that it's pretty much like skin. It's artificial skin. It senses. It stretches. It's just like the real thing, only better. This is kind of cool. I would replace my skin with this stuff in a heartbeat because If I had something like this and I could turn off the pain receptors, that'd be great. Even though the pain receptors are good because they let you know when you're about to die or do something stupid. But you know, it would be kind of cool to turn off the pain receptors for a little while and do something really stupid like, I don't know where I'm going with this. But there are lots of different implications from stuff like this. First off, let's talk about robotics. Let's talk about workers. Let's talk about true displacement of workers. If you had robotic workers that had the ability to sense and detect heat, I guess they could put sensors on them, but you could do very fine, skilled type things like this. I mean, this is like getting into some human territory here. You could really replace a lot of people in a lot of different factories with this.
The ingredients for robotic revolution are cheap, insanely powerful computation, cheap, insanely fast wireless networking, cheap, insanely fast, insanely awesome sensors and sensor technology, signal processing, and cheap, insanely fast video processing. And we've got cheap, insanely fast, super high-res video processing. We've got ubiquitous computation. Sensors are going to be the next thing, and these are sort of not like the warehouse robots like Amazon has. The Amazon robots are really cool. If you haven't seen those, you should go look that up. But being able to sense and touch and deal with the environment means that the robots can behave more intelligently. It's going to be important for self-driving cars. It's going to be important for manufacturing and warehouse type jobs. But in terms of being able to have a general purpose factory robot or a general purpose warehouse robot, these kinds of technologies are really important because you can buy one type of machine and the software will help make it into something else. And so these kinds of sensors, especially if they're cheap and ubiquitous, will drive those kinds of revolution. I mean, there's already kind of a robotics, a sort of a quote-unquote second hacker revolution happening with people that hack on hardware and robotics and signal processing and vision and those kind of things. Because, anybody can now build a super complicated assembly line or a super complicated, factory assembly or something to make hamburgers. I mean, it's like you can almost order some stuff off the internet and it's like, oh, look, I've made a thing to make, hamburgers. It toasts the bun and gets the meat out of the freezer and does all this kind of stuff. And part of that is sensors and the mechanical linkages to do it. But we're there in terms of computational horsepower required to do that and video horsepower required to do that.
All right. You know what? I think this stuff is interesting, but they're going to replace a lot of jobs in factories and that sort of thing. But they're still going to have to work a lot to replace jobs like baristas, servers, and that sort of thing. There's just so much nuance involved. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but I think that'll be the second wave of intelligence because it takes a lot to make like a non-fat, skinny whip, soy dry latte. Sorry, I had to make that face. Let's move on and talk about a space elevator. That sounds a lot more fun anyway. How about a space elevator? That's pretty much all I'm going to really talk about because it's just a purely hypothetical article saying, oh, we could have one by 2035, says some learned man. So the Academy of Astronautics says that maybe, I don't know, who knows. It would make it a lot easier to colonize a lot of the moon or Mars or take trips to Mars, The whole launching out of the atmosphere is a bit difficult, but if we just build an elevator right out of the atmosphere, that might be a little bit more easy. More easiest. It's the more easiest thing I've ever done.
Space elevator would be the way to go to get things in orbit. I mean,
yeah. It'd be really cool. They should set it up so that it's one of those rides that you ride at like a carnival where you sit down and they just shoot you up at like 9,000 miles an hour all the way into. That's what it's going to be used for first. I guarantee it. They're not going to use it for science. They're going to use it for freaking. Hey kids, get your cotton candy and then vomit on this thing. It's the
the vomit vader.
Vomit vader. The vomit sphere. Sends you right into the atmosphere while you vomit, and then they shoot you back down to the earth, and then your head pops. It's also population control. Can't handle the G's, man. Can't handle them. All right, what else do I got to talk about? Oh, this new alloy. So it's as light as aluminum, strong as titanium. This stuff's from Star Trek. This is better than... the only thing that could be cooler than this is transparent aluminum. So we got to wait for Scotty to invent that in the year 1980-something, whenever he invented it, but we were kind of waiting on him to go back in time and invent it so that we can have it today, if that makes any sense. Anyway, this stuff.
I like that they were just like, oh, let's make 5 equal parts of all these different metals and see what happens. And they were like, holy crap, this mess is amazing. And there's one particular kind of metal in there that's insanely expensive. And so they're like, well, I guess the next thing would be to try to make it without this expensive metal and see if it's still awesome. And it's like, what? Who did the science here? Was this like Randy's science hour? I mean, this is an incredible breakthrough, but you used an insanely expensive metal. What? Why did you do that? And not only that, you had time to smelt something else. Why haven't you smelted this? Do you need grant money? Do you require grant money to fulfill my curiosity? Because, shut up and take my money.
Scandium. They're all worried about that scandium. Anyway, you know what I'm worried about? I'm worried about, let's go on to video games, if I can find my mouse. Let's go on to video games and talk about Dean Rocket Hall. He's starting a new company called RocketWerkz, and he's apparently recruiting people on Twitter. And I'm already worried. I didn't love or hate DayZ. I know a lot of people liked it. I do like realism, and I love the fact that DayZ didn't care if you existed or not. It wasn't one of those games where you were the hero. You just existed and tried to survive. I liked that element of the game. Just never actually got into it like you and your guys at the office there did, Wendell. But Dean Rocket Hall, I've always had issues with him. He seems, I don't know, something about him just rubs me the wrong way. He seems like either a jackass or an egomaniac or he seems pretty smart. But RocketWerkz, W-E-R-K-Z, that already worries me. And I'm sure it's a joke, but you're supposed to email him, and where's the email address? It's something ridiculous like YOLO@RocketWerkz.com. See, that's already got me scared right there. That you're going to be emailing YOLO@RocketWerkz.com. It's very
this would
scary,
be delightfully interesting if this were Notch. Unfortunately, it's Rocket, and so
that could not have been said better. Because Notch could get away with that. You see Notch do something like this and be like, he's just being a jackass. He's being goofy. But when Dean does this, you're like, even if he is being goofy, he already is a jackass. If you know what I mean.
Where the hell is my non-shitty version of DayZ? I hold you responsible.
You still got to play the not the standalone. You still got to play the mod. If you want the non-shitty version.
Pretty much.
I'm not sure how the standalone is coming along.
Not at all. It's on fire.
It's just they left it on fire, and now he's starting RocketWerkz. So I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, so we can get it done, right?
No, he's going to be working. He's working on other projects now. No, he's going to work on some other projects now. I don't know. That's probably going to have more zombies. Let's take a look at this Apple advertisement that really, really makes fun of gamers.
Brings gaming to the next level.
This is just
kind of thing.
Yeah, if you're into that.
God, this is.
Watch out for that enemy turret, Kashka.
I got it, Glaive. All right, now let's destroy the thing.
I can't even.
Filthy casuals.
It's beyond that. You know what? I don't even have a problem if you guys play League of Legends or this League of Legends clone on the iPhone 6. Whatever. You guys are still PC gamers, though you're the young ones and all that stuff. MOBAs are around. They're going to be a thing. They're going to be a thing for a long time. They're going to mature with age. FPSs started back way when, and then they got older and older. These things are going to be around for a long time. This whole Apple thing, they're so out of touch, man. This sounds so cheesy and cringy and Hollywoody. Hollywoody? Yeah, it does. It sounds like they just got a couple actors in a room and made them read a bunch of stuff they'd never heard of before. And the writers clearly have no... It's so cringy, guys. Apple, you're doing it wrong. I just wanted to say that, and then we'll move on. Speaking of doing
Apple bought Beats.
Apple, you're doing it wrong.
Reminder.
Yeah, you guys are doing it wrong. All right, let's take a look at the Elite Dangerous launch trailer. This is the Honest trailer from Jaguar Skills, RPS Jaguar Skills. It's funny because in the trailer, this is what you actually saw. This stuff that doesn't actually happen in the game. This overly cheesy slow-mo. And then they cut it together with actual gameplay footage to give you a contrast. But the trailer is it does not match the game at all. Let's go back here. This stuff. They made it look like an arcade version of Star Citizen. Where the actual game. Yeah, all this stuff right here. This is not gameplay footage. What are they doing? They trying to mislead people into buying it? I don't know what kind of crowd they're trying to attract, but it's just a very bad representation of actual gameplay. I'm not sure why they use this as their launch trailer. So, guys, Elite Dangerous, what are you doing? The game is more of a simulation than what you guys are doing with your cheesy rock and roll stuff. I don't know. It just didn't make any sense to me when I saw it.
It's like, well, Logan, we've brought in some VCs, and they've done some market research, and we're going in a different direction with the company. And what we'll be doing is sort of bringing more of this synergy of sort of elite combat fighter, space marine, pirate something, and it's going to be good because the marketing people said so.
Let's talk about a good game. Well, you know, Elite Dangerous is a good game. It's just strangely strange marketing right there. Let's talk about NetHack for just a minute. NetHack is a game that's been around for. It's one of the fathers of the roguelike genre. I think Rogue came before NetHack, if I'm not mistaken, and then NetHack. But anyway, it's been around for since I don't know how long has it been around. Like 25 years, something like that, something ridiculous like that. We just got to talk about this a lot because we were hanging out with Eric S. Raymond over the weekend, and we talked about NetHack quite a bit. And I just installed Pixel Dungeon on my Android device. That could eat up all of my time. So anyway, Wendell, you found these different NetHack websites. NetHack is still actively developed for. It's an open source game. This is what the original looked like, and now they've got tile packs and graphical packs and that sort of thing. But it's just a really deep game, similar to D&D or something. And one of the forefathers of the
greatest game you will ever play.com.
Yeah, there it is. I'm curious to know what our audience thinks of NetHack. Do you guys play NetHack? If you have not played NetHack, I will challenge you to go and download and install NetHack. Play it for a little while. And if you can't handle it, install Pixel Dungeon or something like that that has updated graphics. But if you guys get NetHack on your Android device, you can actually use the original. It's an ASCII game. You can use the the characters and all that sort of thing. Or you can choose between several different tile sets. I think there's like 9 different tile sets that you can choose from. So you can have some graphics, but it requires a lot of strategy. It's a pretty deep game. I mean, it had randomly generated stuff way before Diablo. I don't know why everybody was so freaking out about Diablo when NetHack had been doing it for a long time. So, yeah. A lot of different platforms you can get it on here. PSP as well?
It's
interesting. DS?
20-year-old game. Now, Pixel Dungeon is a roguelike. It's much more shallow, insanely way more shallow than NetHack.
It's for the people who can't handle NetHack at first. Yeah.
Yes.
You can play both. You're allowed to play both.
If you're confused by NetHack, play Pixel Dungeon, get used to Pixel Dungeon, and then maybe you can initiate it in NetHack, because NetHack has an insane depth to it that is absolutely just, it's crazy. It's absolutely just you wouldn't even believe.
It's also pretty funny.
It relies on your imagination. So, and it is really funny.
It is pretty damn funny. So I'm curious. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of NetHack, and don't just go and I don't want to see any comments that are like the graphics are shitty. Screw this. I didn't play it. I don't want to see any comments like that. If you guys comment like that, everybody downvote them until they die. I want to know if you thought, hey, the gameplay was interesting, or maybe the gameplay is antiquated or whatever, and you couldn't get into it. I want to know. I'm curious. I'll do the same. How about that? I haven't played much NetHack. I'll do the same. There you have it. All right, I think that's pretty much it for this episode. Unless we have anything that I've missed, any glaring omissions. I don't know. We've been way too busy recently. The holiday stuff. We've got so many products and a lot of videos. No editor, so yeah, it's been crazy. Albert's working like a dog today. He's benchmarked like 30 CPU coolers. So because we're going to bring you our opinions on the best CPU coolers. Well, and also our data that we're going to collect from the sound and the temps and all that sort of thing. So he's doing that all day today, and we're going to benchmark a bunch of AMD stuff all night tonight. I forgot about that. Oh no, I'll be up all night. It's gonna be a long night. So yeah, you guys better enjoy the videos. We're working way too hard. I don't know why. I don't know why we do it. Yeah. All right. So that's pretty much it. I'm changing scenes for no reason, and we'll see you guys next week.